It is 6 o'clock. I will call the March 26, 2024 meeting of the Wythe County Board of Supervisors to order. This evening we have Pastor Roger Krieger from the Speedwell Pentecostal Holiness Church to provide the invocation. If you would please stand and remain standing for the pledge.
Good evening, Supervisors. It's always a privilege and honor that you invite us to come. And we were especially excited when we found out it was the night you were to give your sports resolutions out. As one of them are ours, we are so appreciative of that. The little goodie bag is just to thank you for all that you do. And I know I don't want to be but just a moment, but I was thinking today, what's one word I could just leave with you? You are the communicators of Wythe County. You have to talk a lot to one another. But one thing that I've learned myself now, I need to be a better listener. We all need to listen well. That's my thought to you this evening. Let's pray. Our Heavenly Father, we're truly grateful and thankful unto you for your many, many blessings upon us. And Father, we thank you for all of those that are here tonight in leadership position and all those visiting in. And we just humbly ask for your guidance throughout the evening, that in everything said and done, that you will give them wisdom. And Father, help us all to be better listeners and help us to be better communicators with one another. So I pray that you'll bless their time together as they make plans for even the county and the future ahead. We just humbly submit it into your hands and ask for your helping hand. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
As Pastor Krieger said, we've got some sports resolutions to present tonight to some state champions from our area high schools. And the first one we have is Mr. Caleb Gibson from the Retreat High School wrestling team. Come on up, Caleb. Now, Caleb, you're a sophomore, so you got a couple more years of this. You think you got it in you? I got it. Wythe County Resolution 2024-06, a resolution honoring Caleb Gibson of the Retreat High School wrestling team. Whereas Retreat High School sophomore Caleb Gibson completed an outstanding 2023-2024 wrestling season, and whereas Caleb advanced to the Virginia High School League Class 1A state wrestling championships on February the 17th, 2024 in Salem, Virginia. And whereas Caleb defeated Bryce Looney of Grundy High School, capturing the 2024 state championship in the 113-pound weight class. And whereas the Wythe County Board of Supervisors officially commends Caleb for his outstanding dedication, athletic ability, and sportsmanship. Now therefore be it resolved that the Wythe County Board of Supervisors presents this resolution to Caleb Gibson in recognition of his 2024 individual wrestling state championship title, and be it further resolved that a copy of this resolution be incorporated in the official minutes of the Wythe County Board of Supervisors, adopted this 26th day of March 2024, signed Brian W. Vaught, Chair. With that, I'll entertain a motion to approve 2024-06.
So moved.
Have a motion by Mr. Terry. Do I have a second? Second. Have a second by Mr. Morgan. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Congratulations, Caleb.
Thank you.
This is number 2 for him also.
I thought so.
And if I'm not mistaken, Caleb, the young man that you beat in the state championship defeated you in the regionals, but you come back when it counted, right?
That's right.
That's what we like to hear, brother. Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Mr. Odell Stroop. If you'll hobble on up here. Wythe County Resolution 2024-07, a resolution honoring Odell Stroop of the Retreat High School wrestling team. Whereas Retreat High School senior Odell Stroop completed an outstanding 2023-2024 wrestling season, and whereas Odell advanced to the Virginia High School League Class 1A State Wrestling Championships on February 17, 2024 in Salem, Virginia. And whereas Odell defeated Brody Ford of Grundy High School, capturing the 2024 state championship in the 165-pound weight class. And whereas the Wythe County Board of Supervisors officially commends Odell for his outstanding dedication, athletic ability, and sportsmanship. Now therefore be it resolved that the Wythe County Board of Supervisors presents this resolution to Odell Stroop in recognition of his 2024 individual wrestling state championship title, and be it further resolved that a copy of this resolution be incorporated into the official minutes of the Wythe County Board of Supervisors, adopted this 26th day of March 2024, signed Brian W. Vaught, Chairman. I'll entertain a motion to approve 2024-07.
So moved.
Have a motion by Mr. Smith. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second by Mr. Cook. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Congratulations, Odell. Mom, Dad. This is especially important because I don't think Odell can hold this. And once again, I believe the gentleman that you defeated for the state championship defeated you in the regions, but when it counted, you come through. Congratulations. She loves that camera. Boy.
She does.
When you get married, you'll do that too. Congratulations. Last but certainly not least, we have Wythe County Resolution 2024-08, Mr. Jesse Collins. You know, Jesse, one of the great things about being on this board is we have great people that help us out. And, you know, we've got a lot of great people that really, I mean, they do all the hard work. We get to wear a suit and smile and get a picture taken. With that being said, Ms. Collins, will you hold this for me? Now, if you haven't caught on, Ms. Collins is Jesse's mom. I'm trying to get you to cry. I mean, it's not like I planned this or anything. Wythe County Resolution 2024-08, a resolution honoring Mr. Jesse Collins of the George Wythe High School swim team. Whereas George Wythe High School junior Jesse Collins completed an outstanding 2023-2024 swim season, and whereas Jesse placed first in the 100-yard butterfly and the 100-yard freestyle at the Region C meet on February the 8th, 2024. And whereas Jesse advanced to the 2023-2024 VHSL State Class 1-2 Swim and Dive Championship on February the 15th, 2024 in Richmond, Virginia. And whereas Jesse captured the 100-yard butterfly championship title with a time of 58.77 seconds. And whereas the Wythe County Board of Supervisors officially commends Jesse for his outstanding dedication, athletic ability, and sportsmanship. Now, therefore be it resolved that the Wythe County Board of Supervisors presents this resolution to Jesse Collins in recognition of his 2024 swimming state championship title, and be it further resolved that a copy of this resolution be incorporated into the official minutes of the Wythe County Board of Supervisors, adopted this 26th day of March 2024, signed Brian Vaught, Chairman. And I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Have a motion by Mr. Terry. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second by Ms. Lawson. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Congratulations. And
Dad, I think Dad's
Where's-
up there.
where's Grandpa at and Dad?
The whole family come
Yeah.
up.
Coach, come on up. And if you haven't caught on, Pastor Krieger's the grandfather. And Jesse, I went to school with your mom, and I know she's a couple of years older. And I also went to school with your Uncle Rusty. And no matter what Rusty says, he doesn't have a state championship, so. If you would like to remind him of that, and when he asks how you found that out, absolutely drop my name. Congratulations. Thank you.
Your mouth's gonna be open in all those pictures.
Do what?
Your mouth is gonna be open in all those pictures.
I just want my eyes to go. We certainly appreciate our student athletes and their parents and their coaches. They certainly make Wythe County proud. Before we move on to the agenda, Mr. Hankins, I believe we have a couple of new employees that you want to introduce.
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, we've got two of our emergency services folks with us tonight. Just wanted to introduce them and make you aware of their titles and the work that they'll be doing for us. One isn't a stranger to you because he's been employed with us for the past year. Our new Director of Emergency Services is Chuck Parnell. Chuck?
Thank y'all. Thank y'all for trusting me to have this job. God has richly blessed me to be here. I don't take it lightly. Never take it for granted, not one day. It's an honor to be employed in the county that I've lived my entire life. It's an honor to work with the firemen, EMS professionals that we have in the county, be on paid or volunteer. It's a pretty amazing group of people we get to work with. I've been here for a year, let me tell you. In that admin building over there, some of the hardest working people I've ever worked with, and that's why I chose to step up and stay with the county, because it's a great group of people to work with. Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I was going to ask him to introduce the next member of our staff, but since he left, I'll do that part too. Want to introduce you to Greg Frazier. Greg is our Deputy Director of Emergency Services for EMS. He'll be overseeing our emergency medical services operations. Has extensive history with both private business on the Korean side and with the City of Radford and some other agencies as well. So Greg, did you want to say hello?
Good morning. I first wanted to start by saying thank you for the opportunity. This culminates my 27th year of EMS, and I don't know that in my short time I've met a more dedicated and hardworking group of people led by Mr. Parnell. I hope to continue that work ethic. I hope to produce a good service for the county and return the investment to you guys that you guys have made in me. So thank you.
Thank you and welcome.
And before we move on to the agenda, I always tell the young people and the parents, if you want to leave, if you don't want to stay here because you got homework or something, feel free to leave. You're more than welcome to stay, but you will absolutely not offend us if you get up and walk out.
It gets kind of boring.
I've never seen a bigger sigh of relief than on that young man's face right there. I'm always hesitant to make that speech because I'm afraid a couple of board members will get up and leave.
Mr. Ball, if I could for a second, I did forget to point one thing out that hit me when I sat down. I was talking about the hardworking people of the county. When your assistant county administrator is out in the mountains in the middle of a forest fire rescuing bears, you know you've got a good crew to work with. Even though they named it Little Smokey, I tried to get them to name it Stephen. He's gonna do a good job.
We'll talk about Cubby later. All right, the next item on our agenda is citizens' time. I will call you up, and as always, you will have 3 minutes. Mr. Cook will keep the time. And the first person we have signed up is Miss Doris, is it Gridley? Come on up, ma'am. I was afraid I was going to butcher that. It looked too easy to pronounce. Thank you, ma'am.
My name is Doris Gridley. I live in the Graham's Forge area. Our property borders the Trail Motel property, which has been bought by Mount Rogers, as you know. I appreciate being able to talk to Mr. Smith, and I've also talked with Ms. Bryant from Mount Rogers. We have some concerns that we feel like are legitimate concerns for this this property, that's the use of it and how it's being supervised and so on. I've talked with Ms. Bryant, and of course it's being made into apartments for mentally ill people who are deemed stable, ready to live on their own, and we wish the best for them, of course. We don't know how they have been evaluated, don't know who has evaluated or how they've been deemed as stable. Ms. Bryant says there are mentally ill people living in every community, and they do okay, and I don't argue with that at all. This is a little different. It is not a mentally ill person living in a community. This is a community of mentally ill people living in a small space. And common sense says that there is a high potential for problems to arise. So I've talked with Ms. Bryant, and she says they have staff on site 5 days a week. Nobody at night and nobody on the weekends. To me, that is totally not acceptable. What happens if something causes an unstable reaction and nobody is there to defuse the situation before it becomes out of control? And we know that that could possibly happen. Ms. Bryant's suggestion for the solution there is, here's my card, I'm on call 24 hours, you can call me anytime. Would we have time to call? Not everybody in the community has her card or would know where to call if they saw something happening. Those of us who have her card, would we have time to call? If we did, would someone have time to get there? And it's been brought to our attention that she lives in Lynchburg, so she would have to call someone else. And so could anybody get there in time to solve a problem that happened to arise? I asked her about having staff on site 24/7. And her answer was, we have 40-some properties, we cannot be everywhere at once. And my idea about that is, if they don't have staff to supervise, they should not have this property and have the apartment set up where they are not able to supervise at all times. So I'm saying that this is a responsibility of the county to have an ordinance in place that would require Mount Rogers or any other group that has this type of situation to have staff on site 24/7 and be able to supervise with someone who is trained in dealing with the problems that might arise. We hope no problems ever do, and we wish the best for these people. But it does not make sense to say we hope nothing ever happens, but then not make provisions in case something would happen, because we know there's that possibility. I'm saying that there needs to be an ordinance in place that requires 24/7 supervision, and that would be the responsibility of this county, this board. So I'm asking that you start coming together with some kind of an ordinance, that you would draft an ordinance and bring it before the people, bring it before the board, whoever needs to come up with that ordinance that would require supervision. That's only common sense, that there would be doing all we can to make it safe for the residents in the apartments and also for the citizens in the county. And I think I'm speaking for the interest of citizens in the whole county and the town of Wythe, because Mount Rogers owns not just this property, but many others. And so all citizens would have maybe the same concerns about places that are in their area. So I appreciate the time, and I would appreciate it if you would come up with this ordinance. It only makes sense that we hope nothing happens, but we hope we don't have to use our insurance, but I'm guessing that everybody in here has insurance in case it's needed, and we need this supervision there just in case something would happen. So I thank you for your attention and time, and I hope that you will take these all into consideration, seriously consider it.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And the next person we have signed up is Miss Vanessa Koch.
Good afternoon. Thank you all for allowing us the time to speak. I am a neighbor of Doris Gridley, and our property also is right on the border of the Trail Motel location that Mount Rogers has recently, purchased in October and turning into apartments for what Ms. Bryant said was patients with, or people with severe, serious mental illness. So with her saying severe, significant mental illness, it does concern me as well, because of the fact she is saying that they've been screened, have to complete application processes. And, I don't have anything against anybody with mental illness. I have worked in the healthcare field for 34 years. I've had lots of experience. I've been in the ER. I've watched, people escalate from being significantly stable to significantly unstable. So I agree with Ms. Gridley in the fact that I do think that it would be in the residents of the county and also the residents of Mount Rogers' best interest if they do have somebody on staff 24 hours a day, 7 days a week at this facility. As I said, she specifically says severe, significant mental illness. So with saying that, I understand that there is a stable and there is an unstable. I also understand that there can be a stable when someone is screened and they can become very unstable quickly. So that is my concern, both for the residents of the apartments that will be there with them, as far as the people that live there in those apartments now, other residents that Mount Rogers might bring in, plus the people of the community. So I agree with Ms. Gridley and would ask that you come up with some sort of ordinance or recommendation, regulation that they would have 24-hour supervision in case something was to become an unstable environment. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. That's all we've had signed up for citizens' time, so I'll close citizens' time. Mr. Bear, before we move on with the agenda, can you reach out to Ms. Bryant, and Mr. Smith, I know it's your district, and I don't mean to take the words out of your mouth, but I feel like I probably am going to. You know, these citizens have brought up valid concerns. We can talk to Mr. Farthing about the legality of any type of ordinance that we could do. I'm very cautious about that because I know the county got their hands smacked several years ago trying to do something similar. But with Mount Rogers' $80 million budget, which is almost as much as with counties, I think they can afford to provide some type of supervision 24/7. And if not, then I'm sure we can find the money by cutting their budget that we can.
That's right.
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Yes, sir.
So, Mr. Mayor, I know I talked to Ms. Gridley about this the other day, and we were talking, the comment that Ms. Bryant made, that they own 46 properties, 49 properties, they can't be everywhere at the same time. That's unacceptable and very unprofessional from someone in her position to be taking taxpayer money and making those conversations or those remarks to the citizens that's concerned about not only their personal safety, but the safety of the residents that's going to be there. To me, it sounds like Ms. Bryant has a staffing problem that's not the citizens' problem. It's her problem, and she needs to address it. And I would echo what the chairman said, if we could have Mr. Farthing to look into what our ordinance options are. I am aware that, you know, the county got, you know, some feedback a while back, but I think this is a little bit different. We're only requesting for staffing to be there for 24/7 in this situation. I would also ask if there was any citing laws that we could leverage here to, you know, they're taking a lot of money, and apparently they have tons of money because they're buying properties all over the Southwest Virginia. And I think we need to make that public information. I know it is public information, but I think it's something we need to share to the residents that's here and anybody else that wants to know, you know, hey, these are the properties that they own. If they want to know what they own, I mean, we could share that. That's all public record. I don't think we would be doing anything, you know, illegal or out of the ordinary on that. But, you know, they need to own this. They just don't need to force it down somebody's throat just because they had the money to buy that trail motel. You know, these citizens here, they chose to live there way before this was ever thought about being sold. You know, they've raised their families there. There's families moving in that wants to raise their families there. And for someone that's in the mental health business, like Ms. Bryant, to make statements like that, to me, it's just unacceptable.
Yeah.
You know, we need to make sure that we hold her accountable for that. If we would have said something like that,
Yeah.
there'd be somebody else sitting here.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I just point out that neither Ms. Coke or Ms. Gridley, never once did I hear them say they didn't want them in the neighborhood, which is what I was totally expecting. But their concern is just the lack of supervision, and I think that's a reasonable and absolute valid concern. So,
Yes, sir.
but does anybody else have anything?
Well, just one other thing to add. I know we talked earlier, Mr. Bear, about the renovation plans and all that. Just if you can verify that all that has taken place, then I can pass it along. Thank you.
All right, folks, moving on our agenda, our next item is our payment of invoices. Each member has received in their board package a copy of the invoices that need to be paid. With that, I'll entertain a motion to pay the invoices.
So moved.
Have a motion by Mr. Cook. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Burnett. Is there any questions or any invoice that any board member wants to pull out? All right, here none, we'll do a roll call vote with Mr. Burnett.
Aye.
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 So approved. Our next item is the minutes from our previous meeting from March the 12th, 2024. I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Who made Is that you,
Yes,
Stacy?
sir.
All right, have a motion by Mr. Terry, a second by Mr. Smith. Is there any corrections or additions to the minutes as presented? Right, hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The minutes are approved. Moving on to old business. Do we have anything under old business, Mr. Barry?
I do not have anything.
Mr. Hankins? Right, we'll move on to old or reports. We have the treasurer's report, Ms. Gwen.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Okay, included in your board packet that you received last week was the treasurer's report. As noted on page 2, the consolidated account contained a balance at the end of February of $81,795,976. Included in that balance for the general fund was a balance of $52,347,530. Our revenues are higher right now because of tax collections, that money continuing to come in. So as we move toward the end of the fiscal year, because usually at this point of the year we don't have that influx of cash still coming in, but with the real estate delay, it did carry over, of course, into this first quarter of the year. We'll start seeing that kind of slowly drop off, and as we creep up on the end of the fiscal year, we'll have a lot of disbursements going out for end-of-year purchases and things like that from departmental budgets. So does anyone have any questions on anything within the financial report?
Does anybody have any questions for Ms. Gwen?
I don't.
No, ma'am.
So just very quickly, of course, we have finished all tax payment processing. We got those finished actually about the first week of March. So all of that was completed. We've got that wrapped up. So now we're just picking up on other activities, trying to get a few other things caught up that have had to go on the back burner. We had the discussion, or had a discussion with you all about staffing. I did offer a position to a person last week, and due to being offered more money to stay in the position that she was in at her employer and insurance costs, the job was turned down. So I'm back to searching to fill at least one of my positions at this point. So I'm still working on that aspect of it. But we're continuing along, trying to get everything done that we can, and just working through everything at this point. So any questions on anything that was not financial report related as far as my department?
So Lori, on the staffing, you thought her current employer give her more money. Is that because of the starting salary is so low, or is it?
I don't know what her current salary was at her employer. We did not have that discussion, so I don't know if she was going to already be taking a pay decrease to come to the treasurer's office from her job. But when she called me, we were to met again last week, and we weren't able to talk until actually yesterday. And she said her employer had offered her a better opportunity, more money, and we had already had the discussion about our insurance costs because she was going to have to pick up a dependent. And that cost was going to be about $6,000 just to pick up the dependent. So if she was taking a pay cut to come here plus the insurance cost, that's a significant hit for anybody financially.
So are you getting a lot of response to the positions that you've got open?
I've had good response this time. I've really been surprised. The last couple of years, I would get excited if I had 6 or 8 applications. I had about 30 this time, so did conduct interviews, go through them, conduct interviews, did my own searches on them. So I've now re-pulled more applications and going to interview again. Bring some more folks in and interview and see if there's someone else that I didn't initially have in my first choices that would be a fit for us, and see how that would work out.
Thank
So,
Mr. Barry, I know we talked about it a little bit during budget discussions last week. Have we reached out to the other localities and seen, you know, what they're doing as far as salary supplements for the treasurer?
We have been, we were working, we pulled the comp board numbers to look at the new comp board numbers and where they are on everything, and pulling that information for our budget discussions, yes.
And I'm sure.
And if we get any numbers and we can share earlier and Lori can help on filling the position sooner, we'll do that as well.
All right, does anybody else have anything for Ms. Gwen?
I was gonna ask about the checks y'all was processing. Has that been, are y'all still processing checks?
tax payments?
Yep.
As I mentioned earlier, we finished all of that in
Okay.
early March.
I just
Yeah.
didn't.
That's okay.
Sorry about
No,
that.
we were able to get those finished when I was here. The last February meeting, at the time, I think we were probably about 3-4 weeks. I think we were running around the early part of February, if I remember right. But the mail dropped off significantly after we got past January 31st, and we were able to really get through all of that mail rather quickly. So we finished that up. I want to say the date was maybe the 4th or 5th. It was the early part of March. We got everything finished and all payments processed. So we just had a few escrow payments left at that point, and escrows usually send in about 200 parcels on a check, so it takes a while to get through those, but we've gotten through all of that and have everything posted at this point.
All right, thank you.
All right, does anybody else have anything for Ms. Gwen?
No.
All right, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Move on to the commissioner, Mr. Linkus. Do you have anything? I know I seen you. Sorry.
Have none. Just say that we're still, we've got a little over a month left on taking elderly and disabled tax relief applications. That's through April 31st. We just went through last week or week before some really good vision training with the new staff and the staff that stayed over that have never really received much training. And as of right now, everything is on track. DMV files are downloaded, and it could all blow up tomorrow, but right now everything's hunky-dory in the commissioner's office.
Mr. Smith was asking me, what qualifies as elderly? He was embarrassed to ask us.
No, I'm not. If he's saving money, I'm not embarrassed. So on that, how was the turnout? Is it up, down from where it was last year, or can you
I
tell?
don't know. A lot of them wait for the last few weeks, and we have to kind of call and remind them.
Okay.
And so, I think the turnout's up, because I think, I haven't counted, but I think turnout's up just because more people know, maybe word of mouth or
Okay.
such.
Cool. Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next we have the sheriff. Sheriff Foster, you have anything? All right, we'll move on to new business. The first item under new business is the consent calendar that everybody's received. I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent calendar. Have a motion by Mr. Cook. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second by Mr. Terry. Is there any questions or discussion on the consent calendar? Hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Terry?
Aye.
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 So approved. Next item we have is our fiscal year 2024 fourth quarter appropriations. Each board member has received that in their board package. I will entertain a motion to approve the last appropriations for this fiscal year.
So moved.
I have a motion by Mr. Burnett. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second by Mr. Morgan. Is there any questions or discussion on that? Hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Burnett?
Aye.
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 So approved. Next, we have our Route 52 sewer project, the ARPA grant agreement. Mr. Bear, I believe that's you.
Yes, we received, I believe the number $652,000 for our project. We need to execute this ARPA agreement in order to proceed with this project. I would request the board's approval of this ARPA agreement and authorize the county administrator to sign.
So moved.
All right, quickly, I had a motion by Mr. Smith. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second by Mr. Terry. Is there any questions or discussion on that one? Hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Terry?
Aye.
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 So approved. Next, we have the Joint Industrial Development Authority, their annual audit. I believe that's just for information only, but do we need to take action?
You
to
can
approve?
take action just to say you've received it, sir, if you'd like.
Okay. Entertain a motion to
Accept.
accept the audit as presented.
So moved.
Have a motion by Mr. Smith. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second by Mr. Burnett. Any questions or comments on that? I will say it was a clean audit, which is like what we like to have. And with that being said, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? So accepted. Next, we have our abstract of votes from the March 5th, 2024 primaries. I'll entertain a motion to accept the abstract of votes.
So moved.
Have a motion by Mr. Terry. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second by Mr. Burnett. Any questions or discussion on that motion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? So approved. Moving on to staff reports. We have our Bear wrestler, Emory and Henry football announcer, Matthew Cubby Hankins.
Thank you, I think, Mr. Chairman.
It was all positive.
It was. Got a few action items, including some that aren't on your agenda. First action item, last month you authorized an additional $15,000 for Rural Retreat Rescue Squad to help close out their operations. They've indicated that they need those funds. I just would request an authorization from the board to issue that check as a manual check tomorrow.
Is this a second request, or we just actually?
Last month you authorized $15,000 if they needed it. They didn't request it until after this check run had already been printed. So we would need to do it as a manual check, and they need it for payroll purposes.
Okay. All right. I'll entertain a motion to authorize the $15,000 check to be paid out. Is it Wednesday, tomorrow?
Yes, sir.
Have a motion by Mr. Morgan. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Have a second by Ms. Lawson. Is there any questions or discussion?
So this is the 15 that we talked about a
Last
couple weeks
month.
ago, right? No addition.
Yeah.
Right.
All right. Anything else? We'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Terry?
Aye.
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 So approved.
Second request is a change in our designated emergency response agencies. Starting April 1st with County Emergency Services will be the operator in the areas currently served by lead mines and Rural Retreat Rescue Squad. I've asked for updated mapping from our GIS coordinator, and we'll need to make some amendments to the current DARA. Just would ask for your authorization to allow with County Emergency Services to operate in those territories until we can amend the plan in April.
All right, entertain a motion to authorize with County Emergency Services to operate in areas currently designated as the service territories for retreat lead mines rescue.
So moved.
Have a motion by Mr. Terry. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second by Ms. Lawson. Is there any questions or discussion on that? All right, hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Burnett?
Aye.
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 So approved.
Related to that, service will start on April the 1st. We are currently in the midst of hiring staff. Mr. Parnell and Mr. Frazier have sat through a lot of interviews over the last couple of weeks. So we are starting to do some scheduling now. The captains have been hired, and we'll bring them in to meet with you in April. We are moving forward with a good mix of paramedics and EMTs, good mix of experience, some with agencies currently serving the county and some from outside. I would say the response from folks who work outside of the county was above what we had expected. So we've been able to bring some folks home. Also related to this, you have a lease in front of you, a paper copy. It's a one-page lease. It's for the county to lease the Rural Retreat Rescue Squad building. That property is owned by the town of Rural Retreat. We worked out an agreement and signed it in October, and this lease just captures the essence of that agreement and puts this to recording that we have a lease and spells out the terms. So I can go through the terms if you need to, but it is generally consistent with the agreement that we arrived at late last year. So I would ask for authorization for staff to execute the lease agreement. I believe the town of Rural Retreat also has it on their agenda tonight for consideration and approval, and they received this copy back from me early this afternoon.
All right, and I assume this is, Mr. Farthing's looked at this?
Yes.
All right, entertain a motion to approve the lease agreement and authorize staff to execute.
So moved.
Have a motion by Mr. Cook. Do I have a second? Have a second by Mr. Smith. Is there any questions or discussion on the lease agreement? Hearing none, let's do a roll call vote. Mr. Terry?
Aye.
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 So approved.
Seems that I have a problem attending the April meetings of the Regional Improvement Commission. I wasn't able to make the one last year and won't be able to make the one this year. Would ask that you designate the county administrator to act as the alternate member of the Regional Improvement Commission to act in my place.
Do they have those at the casino?
Well, it depends. If you call the Washington County Government Center a casino, then yes.
I was gonna say, well, Mr. Bear can't make it, I might go. All right, entertain a motion to make county administrator alternate for the Regional Improvement Commission.
So moved.
Have a motion by Mr. Smith. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second by Mr. Morgan. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Congratulations, Mr. Bear, another meeting.
Martha will have to send a letter with me they might not let me in without it, so.
I'll give you my casino card.
Just a couple of informational items. We received, today must have been grants notification day at the Office of EMS. We received several notifications that we either received grants for the coming fiscal year or that grants that we currently have been extended. We received another 911 Center education grant. We received notification of what our 4 for Life funds will be next year, and I've shared that with Finance Director Woods to include in the revenue projections. And our Next Gen 911 grant, which has been ongoing and delayed by state action several times, we've now been extended for another 1.5 years on that, but we are expecting that we'll finalize that this year. They're working on finalizing the circuits and scheduling their equipment install for that new call handling equipment, and we think that will probably be done by midsummer if things continue the way that they're going. And one last thing that's not on your agenda, we recognize some incoming staff, just, you know, she's operating the cameras for our meeting tonight, but wanted to recognize Elizabeth Sweeney Delp. She's leaving us at the end of the week for another job. I don't want to publicize the county that she's going to work for, but do want to thank her for her service and wish her well in her future endeavors. She's done good work for us. The remainder of my report you see, I think the users who are in the room can attest that the radio system has worked very well so far. We've had very few hiccups with that. Some of the older legacy equipment was taken out today, the Zetron and some other interfaces that we no longer need, so it freed up some rack space in our IT closet in dispatch. So we're starting to see some of that legacy equipment start to come out. We have received a fair amount of the old radios back either to us or to the chiefs of the departments, so we are going to accumulate that equipment, and the equipment that we don't need for continued interoperability will accumulate and prepare to sell that once we're fully comfortable that we can move ahead. But so far things are working well with the radios. And I like being able to cross those projects off my list. I think that's it for all the action items I needed tonight. So unless you have any questions, that's my report.
All right, does anybody have any questions for Mr. Hankins? I'd just like to echo, we will miss Miss Dale. She's done a great job. She's
Yes.
a bundle of energy. In case you didn't notice when she was taking pictures, and I won't advertise which county she's going to work for, but if I get a chance to pay back Jonathan Sweet in Pulaski County, I will absolutely do so. All right, moving on to County Administrator Report, Mr. Baird.
Yeah, first thing, before we get into the agenda, my items, I am opposed to the wildlife wing of the new animal shelter that Mr. Parnell and Mr. Hankins are promoting right now. So just want to let y'all know, I don't think we need to get into that business in the process. So. But it has brought good news to Wythe County, so appreciate that. And with it being a relative of mine, I appreciate you saving it also. So, first item, Robinson Farmer Cox Associates Audit Services. One of our projects we're working on needs to show that we have an audit agreement in place for next year. This is our last year, I believe, that we could go under our current contract. We will need to advertise the following year, but would request your all's approval for Robinson Farmer and Cox Audit Services.
Right, I'll entertain a motion to authorize Robinson Farmer Cox for our audit.
So moved.
Have a motion by Mr. Cook. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second by Mr. Morgan. Is there any questions or discussion on that one? All right, here now we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Terry?
Aye.
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 So approved.
Second item, as you all know, we have $1.5 million in the budget this year for fire vehicle replacement. It appears that we will be able to get a favorable rate through rural development. The rate will be changing April 1st, but right now the rate that's out there is very good. I request you all approve this resolution so we can start the process of finalizing our financial package from rural development. And as Mr. Hankins and Mr. Parnell wrap up the trucks we're getting, we can submit that information and get the funding from rural development. And we'll present more information to you later, but we'll probably looking at the same 15-year term that we did the last time we did trucks.
Just for, and I'll go back to Mr. Hankins, just for the public's knowledge, I remember when $1.5 million would buy a whole lot of fire trucks. But the average cost now is what, Mr. Hankins?
We're looking at several trucks that are in the $645,000 to $720,000 range. There are several that are priced well above that and not available for 2 or 3 years while they're in line to be built. So I too can remember when that would buy a lot of fire trucks. We are this week going to look at some possibilities, a mix of new and used equipment that can be repurposed and used for us for a long time, that comes out of generally departments that have used it for 5 or 10 years, leaving some good life on the equipment for us. We also have to consider the use of DEF. I like pre-DEF trucks just because it's easier maintenance. But we also, within the next couple of years, have new emission standards coming that will drive up the cost of engines and chassis, probably adding $50,000 to $80,000 to the cost of an average fire truck. So it's going to get worse.
Imagine that. Right, entertain a motion to approve the attached resolution, giving the county administrator the authority to execute the documents for the rural, is it the rural development?
Rural development, yes.
So,
I have a motion by Mr. Smith. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second by Mr. Terry. Is there any questions or concerns on that one? Hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Burnett?
Aye.
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 So approved. I apologize, Mr. Bear. I didn't scroll down far enough to see it was a resolution.
No problem, sir. Virginia Opioid Abatement Authority, express my appreciation to Ms. Delp. She worked closely with the school board on getting this application in. We have been awarded these funds. Would request your all's acceptance, and I will sign this and send this back in to them.
Entertain a motion to accept the Opioid Abatement Authority grant.
So moved.
Have a motion by Mr. Cook, a second by Mr. Burnett. Is there any questions or discussion on that one? Hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Terry?
Aye.
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 So approved.
Next item is a resolution for a land use permit. Ms. Delp and staff have been working on the kayak portage. And on Lampkins Road, we need to get a entrance permit, and this basically, just by doing this resolution, covers us in lieu of having to post bonds or things like that. So request your all's approval for this resolution for a VDOT land use permit.
All right, I assume I have a motion by Ms. Lawson to approve resolution.
Yes, let's get that
2024-10.
entrance done, please. So moved. So let's get that entrance done, please.
All right, do I have a second?
second.
Well, second by Mr. Smith. Is there any questions about that? We'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Burnett?
Aye.
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 So approved.
Next is a pretty straightforward agreement with Wythe County and the town of Pulaski. Sheriff's Office has presented this to me. Request you all approve this law enforcement mutual aid agreement with the town of Pulaski.
All right, entertain a motion to approve the mutual aid agreement with the town of Pulaski.
So moved.
Have a motion by Mr. Smith. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second by Mr. Terry. Is there any questions or discussion? All right, hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Burnett?
Aye.
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 All abstain?
Aye.
Aye.
So approved.
The next item is trash and recycling bid, and before we take action on it, I would request that we delay action until later in the meeting, and we have a closed session to discuss contract negotiations with legal counsel. So if we can skip that one for now, unless you all want to step in the back room and do closed session and come back out.
Well, I was going to ask if we had 2.23711A7 discussion with legal counsel in reference to the issues brought before the board about the Mount Rogers development anyway, so
Okay.
I guess we can do both of those.
Yeah, we'll do both of those. If y'all want to wait to the end of the meeting, and we'll come back. And I know we have some people here interested in this, so when we go to closed session, we'll go in the back room, and then we can come back out and take action. So the next one is the VDOT 6-year plan development. Provided you a handout. We've got $882,576 as the estimated allocation. The 4 roads that they deemed eligible are listed there. 2 of the roads that they looked at, they did not deem eligible. VDOT just presented these 2 options. They can go over the allotment, but they can go over the allotment with one project. And I knew Mr. Burnett, you had talked about Dry Pond Road. There had been some back and forth. I didn't know if it was wanting to stay on here or not. We've got to have a public hearing and everything on this. VDOT would just like to have an idea of which way we'd like to go, and they'll prepare the documentations for our meeting in that manner. So it's your all's preference, and I'll, Mr. Chairman, turn it over to you for however y'all would like to proceed.
Well, none of my roads made the list, so I'll turn it over to the board.
And these, I mean, you can change and do something entirely different than either one of these, so.
Yeah, I mean, just for me, Stillwell Drive, I was kind of shocked because it didn't make it last time. We asked about it, now it's on there, so I would like to see it done before they change their mind again.
Mr. Burnett, I know you talked about Dry Pond Road.
All right, so I talked to quite a few of the residents, and basically the newer residents wanted, and then the older residents didn't. Give or take a few, but mostly they didn't want it. I mean, for the people I talked to. So, I mean, that's what, I mean, I would, from my feedback would be to not do it, because if I heard from more of the residents, of course that would change, but.
If you did Zion, Stillwell, and Powder Mill, that's $1,237,000, which is $20,000 difference than what their option 2 is. So I would assume that would be a viable option for them as well. We would just need to list Powder Mill as the last option in that manner of doing it.
So you're saying,
if you did Zion, Stillwell, and Powder Mill, just off that top up there.
so we're making option 3.
Option
is what I'm
3,
hearing.
yeah.
Okay, I was confused, which happens a lot.
And I can send that to VDOT and say, we chose door 3 that you didn't give us, and make sure there's no issue with that. And if you'd like, they'd like to set the public hearing for the next meeting if at all possible. So.
Well, do you want to set a meeting, you want to set a meeting before we get an answer from them, or?
They typically set this public hearing for us in the process, so.
Oh, I thought they were asking us to set it.
We can set it, or they set it as well. They advertise this one. Usually Ms. Collins doesn't have to do this when they go ahead and advertise the public hearing for it. So we just need to agree to the date that we want to do it. So we could do it April 9th, or we could ask them just to review this and set it for April 23rd, however y'all like to do it.
They're not in my area, so.
I mean, as soon as
whatever you
possible, I'm
want.
sure they want to get it off their plate.
And at the public hearing, I mean, there's nothing that says you can't follow the public hearing and change at that point in time and ask them to change the roads. They'll have the paperwork and everything done, but they could still make a change at that time.
But I mean, we need to see if that option,
Yeah.
option 3 is even available. So,
You want me to, would you like to go ahead and set that public hearing contingent upon this option being available?
that's what
Yeah, I'm good with that.
do we need to take any action?
I would just recommend a motion to put forward those 3 roads for a public hearing, April 9th, contingent upon VDOT's approval of those are good options.
So,
All right, I have a motion by Mr. Smith. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second by Mr. Morgan. Is there any questions or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, same sign. So approved.
And obviously, Mr. Bernard, that doesn't mean dry pond can't be looked at next year if you get more
Right.
support or
If I
whatever,
get- if I
you know,
get
we can add it
more
each year.
Feedback, yeah.
Okay.
All right, anything else, Mr. Baird?
No, sir.
All right, county attorney report, Mr. Farthing, you have anything?
I do have one thing, Mr. Chairman. It's come to our attention doing this battery storage facility. We had passed a revenue sharing ordinance, which allows us to collect a tax based on the wattage or megawatts of the solar facility. So instead of taxing the personal property and that depreciating over time, and there's a large exemption for those battery storage and solar facilities on the personal property, that in general, the revenue sharing is a better plan. So revenue sharing allows for that tax on the megawatts for solar facilities and energy storage facilities or battery storage facilities. So we need to amend our ordinance to include battery storage facilities. So if we have one come in that's approved, we have an application for one now for a siting agreement that I think they're working on some details and setting a public hearing some point in the near future. So my recommendation would be to set a public hearing to amend the revenue sharing ordinance to include energy storage systems. I was unable to draft that today, but you can set it for the second meeting in April. Will give us plenty of time do we have time for April 9th?
Advertising wise, we would have time for April 9th.
Yeah, if we want to do April 9th, we can. I can get that ordinance out at least by this weekend to have it available for the advertisements. It's an easy change. We're just adding energy storage with solar, so.
All right, I'll entertain a motion to set the public hearing for that amendment for our April the 9th meeting.
Got a question.
All right.
Energy storage facility, is that just batteries? Does that include any other energy storage? Like petroleum?
It is aimed at the electrical battery energy storage
I know what it's
for,
aimed
yeah,
at.
that's what it's,
Yeah,
that's what the legislation, it's under the
That's-
solar farms.
That's what the legislation's under. I'd have to look and see what the definition of that is, but I'm sure there's a definition for it. I can let you know at the next meeting, so.
Our intent is just to address the solar, like the $1,400 per megawatt that we put in for the solar
Yeah.
wattage, that we put that in for the battery storage systems.
I realize that, but I just want to make sure somebody doesn't come along.
Put in a bunch of fuel
Change that.
tanks.
Change it,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
All right, entertain a motion to set the public hearing for April the 9th.
So moved.
Have a motion by Ms. Lawson. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second by Mr. Morgan. Is there any more questions or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? So approved. Anything else, Mr. Farley?
No, sir.
All right, we'll move on to board reports. Mr. Terry, we'll start with you.
One thing I have is just Happy Easter this upcoming weekend, and remember that Easter is not about the bunny, but about the lamb, and that's all I've got, sir.
All right, thank you.
Thank you,
Mr.
sir.
Morgan.
Have nothing at this time.
Mr. Smith.
I got two things, Mr. Chairman. Well, I had three, but we've already talked about all the rest of them. But, so, Mr. Byard, the library agreement, did we ever get that?
It has gone to Ms. Thomas. She called me back this afternoon to set up time to meet, and I did not get back in touch with her. So it has gone to them for review.
Okay, good deal. And then the next question is Mr. Hankins or Mr. Byard, either one. The seating for the hockey rink, is it scheduled to be installed after the hockey season's over?
We had a video meeting with the provider today. We're still approving shop drawings. They've ordered the seats, so they are on track. They are probably looking at a July or August completion. But yes, it should be finished well before the next season is scheduled. I know the lessee wants to use the arena for some other events that they'll announce, and it helps us out the sooner we can get it done.
So is it going to interfere with any of the other events that they may have scheduled? Or are they going to push them out after that?
There was one event that there's a potential conflict with. The company's going to let us know within a week whether they can meet the deadline to allow that event to go on before the lessee signs the contract for it. So some of the events that had been scheduled for a while, one that we've had questions about is Bronco Fest in June. It shouldn't interfere with that. We're going to have some time, and you know, we may have another solution for removing the current seating there, but we're waiting on follow-up from the seat provider before we bring that to you.
Do we know how the bull sale done?
I do not know, no.
There's quite a few people up there, so just curious on that. And then the last thing I got is, I know I mentioned it last week during the budget sessions, but if we can promote and advertise those 5 lots that's down there to try to get some lodging and some good restaurants on that end of the county, it would be awesome.
Yes, sir.
That's all I've got, Mr.
All right, Mr. Cook,
I have nothing this time, Mr. Chairman.
Ms. Lawson.
Yes, I wanted to let you all know the Wall of Honor Committee would like to invite everyone to a Memorial Day event that we're hosting. It is going to be, let's see, May 24th at 7 p.m. at Withersfield. It's rain or shine. Let's see, I just left that committee and came straight here, so don't want to miss anything. It's Memorial Day Remembrance in the Park is what it's called. If we could get that maybe slid into the water bill to let our county people know about it, and maybe social media would be great. It's basically just very informal. It's going to be a candlelight ceremony honoring those that lost their lives defending our country. So probably only lasts about an hour, just something we've been planning for a while.
What's that date again?
It is May the 24th at 7 p.m. at Withers. And that's all I have. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Burnett.
I have a few items. I had a lady call me about Baker's Island Road, saying that she hadn't seen VDOT all winter. And I went down there, and they did have grass growing in the ditch lines and everything, kind of pretty indicative that nobody had been there. No gravel on the road, a lot of potholes. And that led me to drive around Olive Branch Road over in Austinville was in pretty bad shape, and Riverview Road in Ivanhoe is in pretty bad shape too. And then in Barron Springs on April 4th at 6 p.m. at Glenwood Church, the Ruatan will be starting their charter for the new Ruatan Club in Barron Springs. And that's all I had, Chairman.
All right. I've just got a couple of things, and I'm not sure whose district it is. It may be Miss Lawson's, but I ran into Delegate Arnold yesterday, and he's Lover's Lane Road where VDOT has decided to close it. Apparently, the Delegate Arnold's got some calls, which I told him that they were calling the right person because that's under his umbrella. But he said he was working with VDOT, trying to get some resolution. So
Resolution for maybe how long they're shutting it down for
yeah,
a small.
I think he's trying to get that changed. But besides that, and the reason I did run into Delegate Arnold, Southwest Virginia lost a true champion. The other day, Mayor Helms from Marion passed away, and probably everybody on this board, and I know Mr. Barrett and Mr. Hankins had occasion to interact with Mayor Helms, and it's like I told somebody yesterday, he was definitely Marion's biggest champion for any type of development, but if Marion got taken off the list, then he wanted it located in Southwest Virginia. He would be a Wythe County fan once they told him that Marion Smith County was out, and you don't find that a whole lot, but I know we've got closed session, but when we come back, I would ask for a motion that tonight when we adjourn in the honor of Mayor David Helms from the town of Marion. That's all I have. And with that being said, after a brief 5-minute recess, I'll entertain a motion to go into closed session under 2.2-3711A1 personnel and 2.2-3711A7 consultation with legal counsel. I have a motion by Mr. Cook. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second by Ms. Lawson. We'll do a roll call vote with Mr. Terry.
Aye.
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 So approved, and we'll be in recess for 5 minutes and then closed session.
And Mr. Chairman, I'd request, since we have some people that probably want to stay, that we just meet closed session in the back room here.
Yeah,
and
that's
we
fine.
can.
Entertain a motion to come out of closed session.
So moved.
Have a motion by Mr. Terry, a second by Mr. Burnett. Is there any questions or discussion? Hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Terry?
Aye.
Aye. So approved. We're now back in open session on the record. Mr. Terry, if you'll read the certification.
Whereas the Wythe County Board of Supervisors has convened a closed meeting on this date pursuant to an affirmative recorded vote and in accordance with the provisions of the Virginia Freedom of Info Act. Whereas Section 2.2-3712 of the Code of Virginia requires requires a certification by the Wythe County Board of Supervisors that such a meeting was conducted in conformity with the Virginia law. Now therefore be resolved that the Wythe County Board of Supervisors hereby certifies that to the best of each member's knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempted from the open meeting requirements by Virginia law were discussed in the closed meeting to which a certification resolution applies. And only such public business matters as were identified in the motion convening this closed meeting were heard, discussed, and are considered by the Wythe County Board of Supervisors. And I will make that a motion, Mr. Chairman.
All right, I have a motion. Do I have a second? Second. Have a second by Mr. Burnett. We'll do a roll call vote to ratify the certification. Mr. Burnett?
Aye.
Aye.
So approved. All right, I'll entertain any motions from the floor.
Mr. Chair, after considering the proposals for the trash collection services and all the evaluation criteria, I move that we award the contract to RC Children's Trucking.
All right, have a motion by Mr. Cook. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second by Mr. Burnett. Is there any questions or discussion on the motion at hand? Hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Terry?
Aye.
Aye. So approved. Mr. Bear, is there anything else to come before the board?
No, sir, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Hankins, you have anything?
I have nothing additional.
Mr. Farthing?
I do not.
Ms. Collins?
Sir, thank you for this presentation.
You're welcome. We're proud of them. All right, with that being said, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting in the memory of Mayor David Helms of the town of Marion.
So moved.
Have a motion by Mr. Terry. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second by Mr. Smith. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We're now adjourned.